I'm Pauli. I'm a mom, a wife, a pelvic floor physical therapist, and founder of No Kegels University. I have helped thousands of women stop leaking, enjoy intimacy, and feel proud of their bodies, even after having kids. After years of listening to women wonder why no one talks about leaking, how they should properly recover after having a baby, and that pleasurable intimacy is possible, I started to get real frustrated because I believe that no mom or woman should struggle when there are answers. It became my mission to shed light on the lack of postpartum care and the lack of discussion on issues that relate to women and their health, even if they can be uncomfortable sometimes. It also became my mission to change the conversation on women's health, the pelvic floor, and more. Here we go. Episode 35, Secrets to Conquering Your Constipation. I grew up showing horses competitively, and I don't know if this is something that I talk about a lot. It's not something I ever try to hide, but it's a part of my childhood that I am so fond of, and how I wish to get back into having horses and smelling like them and being able to ride more often. But if you have ever been around anyone that has had horses, I feel like they always have the best stories. And I don't know if it's because horse people are maybe kind of weird or something along that lines. I don't really know. But in this episode of what I want to share with you today, I couldn't help but think of my brother's horse trainer. And one of the things that he would have in the morning is his venti mocha latte. Every morning from Starbucks, it didn't matter where we were in the country, he would somehow have one. And he'd have one first thing in the morning, and he would either be riding horses or helping his students. And out of nowhere, it seemed, he would say, "Oh, my mocha's calling," and he would have to hurry and run to the bathroom because it just seemed to be like a light switch that would turn on, and he would have to go have a bowel movement every morning. And it was just this joke that always happened when we would go to Starbucks in the morning and he would have his coffee. And I suppose it was one of those stories that you had to be there, but it honestly was every single morning. And it probably was within 30 to 45 minutes of him starting his mocha latte, and then his bowels would be calling. And I feel like that is the secret that I want to share with you today, as to how to get your bowels to really wake up and to have that on switch like my brother's horse trainer did. And to this day, I'll even add, my brother was at a horse show a couple weeks ago, and he happened to mention to me that he ran into this horse trainer and said that he was still drinking his mocha latte. And mid-conversation, he said, "Oh, I gotta go, buddy. My mocha's calling." And I just thought it was so funny that, almost 20 years ago, he still is doing the same thing every morning. And it really was just kind of a funny joke inside of our barn with all the other clients there. But the reason I tell you this story is because I think he figured out the thing that allows him to have a bowel movement every day and to not be constipated. And I know that this sounds kind of funny to talk about, but when I have people come into my office or I'm helping them as coaching clients, it's always interesting to me that when I present them with some of these tips, they'll say, "Oh, I've never thought about that before." And what I want to give you today is what I call the morning bowel routine. However, this is not something that you have to do in the morning. You can most definitely do it in the afternoon. So the first thing I want you to think about doing is I want you to decide, when do you want to have your bowel movement? You pick. That's going to be the first step. And most of the time for my patients and coaching clients, the morning is the best time. So I'm going to use that time, and that's what we're going to illustrate here. So let's decide that 6:30 is going to be our golden time. That's when we want to have a bowel movement by. So what you're going to do is at least by 6 o'clock, you are going to perform some type of physical activity. And this could be a workout, or this could be quickly speed cleaning your home. I feel like it's a really great way to start your day, to hurry around and pick everything up and, reset your house for the day before everyone starts waking up and the chaos begins. The second thing you're going to do is I want you to drink something warm or eat something warm. And whether or not you eat something warm, I still want you to drink something. Or if you drink something warm, I still want you to eat something. It doesn't have to be very much, at least a cup, about 8 ounces or so of something warm, or just liquid if you're going to eat something warm. And eating something really could just be a couple of different bites. And I realize this could impact intermittent fasting and all sorts of things. But it's one of those you can decide, or at least try it for a while and see how it works for you, or maybe decide to have your bowel movement later on in the day when you can implement it this way. The next thing that I'll have you do within this 30 minutes, right? So we're going to start at 6 o'clock if 6:30 is our golden time to have a bowel movement. I also want you to, and this is if you drink caffeine, to have some caffeine, because like my story in the beginning with my brother's horse trainer, he figured out that his something warm worked in the morning for him. His coffee had caffeine in it, which also worked for him. And if you remember a part of that story, he was up wandering around, training clients, or even riding horses. He was performing physical activity. This is part of the secret to conquer your constipation, is to train up your bowels so that they go like clockwork, like my brother's horse trainer did. And I know that this sounds funny that you can train your bowels to do this, but I'm here to tell you it has never not worked. And it's one of those things that we're going to take the activities or the food, anything that's going to stimulate your bowels, we want to throw everything at it, but we want to do it around that same time to give your bowels an opportunity to start working. And so by doing this, we're giving your brain signals, we're giving your body signals so it knows what to do. And I'm here to tell you, I had a patient actually, I think it was about a couple months ago. This was something that we were working on for her. And she really didn't believe me. And she went on vacation, which typically tends to be when things go awry because your sleep schedule is off, the foods you eat is off, your physical activity or exercise is off. There's just so many things that are different and out of routine on vacation than what they are at home. And she told me that she was in Hawaii having the best time, and she planned to sleep in the next morning. And she said, "Pauli, I didn't wake up by an alarm." And I said, "Oh, that's great. I bet that felt so good." And she looks at me so serious and she says, "No, my bowels woke me up. I had to wake up and go poop." And I said, "Oh, interesting. What time was that?" And she said, 6:15. And I said, "Oh, okay. What was your time that we were trying to shoot for?" And she said, 6:30. And I just thought that it was such a great story because she had been training her bowels, and I can't remember how many weeks it was prior to this vacation, where her plan was to sleep in. She didn't necessarily start all these little different things that I walked you through, but what allowed her to do this is because she had put that time in to train her bowels, and her bowels woke her up. And for some of you who might like to sleep in the morning, I don't know what to tell you except, yay, your bowels are moving. This is really great news, especially on vacation. And this is something that this patient and I talked about. I said, "Well, are you frustrated?" And she said, kind of, because I wanted to sleep in, but also not, because she told me that oftentimes when she would go on vacation, she wouldn't have a bowel movement the entire time she was there, and she was absolutely miserable. And she told me that this was the first vacation that she had been on, that number one, she had a bowel movement every day. Number two, if you remember, I said she was in Hawaii. She said, yes, I was able to wear my 2-piece swimsuit the entire time rather than wearing the 2-piece maybe the first day and the second day. And then after that, I just wanted to stay covered up because I was so bloated because I would never have a bowel movement. And I just thought that it was such a cool story that all we did was we threw things that naturally and physiologically help the bowels to be stimulated to help them do their job. And we can train the body to do what it was designed to do. And that is how I design a lot of my methods and a lot of my programs, is how we naturally and physiologically function. And then we utilize that to our benefit. And the other piece that I'll add in here that I meant to say earlier as it relates to caffeine, if you don't consume coffee or what have you, you don't necessarily have to. I don't drink coffee, but I do have differing caffeine sources in the morning. One of my favorites, and I don't have an affiliate code for them because I haven't gotten to it yet, and also because I really just love the product. It's called Amazing Grass. And it's the energy canister. I think there's like a watermelon and a lemon lime, and the watermelon is my favorite. And it most definitely is an acquired taste, but I really enjoy it in the morning most of the time because it does have some fiber and some greens, which is really great for your bowels and our body and our health, especially depending on what your health goals might be. But also with that caffeine, it's a great way to stimulate your bowels. And I can't remember exactly what the caffeine source is, but I think it's some yerba mate and some matcha. Oh man, I really can't remember. But that is one of my favorite caffeine sources in the morning. Another one is Perk Energy, especially in the winter. Here in Utah, it's so cold, and it's like a hot chocolate drink, but it has caffeine in it. And that is my something warm and my caffeine in the morning. So that's what works for me. And hopefully that gives you some ideas. But I also don't want you to feel obligated to have to drink caffeine. You can definitely make this work for you with just drinking something warm and eating something, or drinking something and eating something warm. Your choice. But I will say consistency is the key here. Your homework for today is number one, I want you to go back through and I want you to take some notes on this episode. We talked about picking your time, and then you're going to start this at least a half hour before your desired time to have a bowel movement. You're going to drink something warm or eat something, or vice versa, and possibly have some caffeine and have some physical activity of some kind. I want you to take some notes on this and start to develop this into your routine so you can start having your bowel movements with some ease. The next piece of homework is if you haven't grabbed your free copy of this constipation solution, do so in the show notes. If you are in need of some pelvic floor strengthening help and you haven't yet set up your pelvic floor strategy call with me, go ahead and do so in the show notes. Now, I know that there's a lot of different pieces of homework here, but I will say you pick at least one that you haven't done yet. Because while there might only be 2 pillars in which I like to treat constipation, this is where there's so much variation and difference for each person. So I wanted to make sure that there was homework options that suited each of you. But remember, you're an heiress and a queen and everything in between. If you enjoyed this episode or even wondered if I can help you, check the show notes for more details. And to see what else I'm up to, follow me on the socials at BeyondTheV by Pauli. Because I'm changing the conversation on women's health, the pelvic floor, and more, I still need your help. Please subscribe, leave a review, and share with a friend or two. See you next week.